Hey everyone, yes, I am a fighter pilot, once and always. But I'm also a test pilot. And that means I've seen and done things with airplanes you can't even imagine. That also means I've met some amazing pilots with equally amazing stories along the way. Stories of combat, stories of saving lives, women aviators, astronauts, the list goes on and on. I'll give you unprecedented access to this arena like you've never seen before. I'm your host, Brett Vance, and this is Jet Jockeys.
Long Beach Airport information, Delta 1553 Zulu, wind calm, visibility 10.
Hey guys, this is going to be an outstanding day because today we get to meet my friend and fellow test pilot, Tucker Hamilton. His call sign is Cinco. We first met at the Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base when I was an instructor there. This guy's had an outstanding career as a fighter pilot. He's got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in aerospace engineering, and he got an F-15 Eagle to Eglin Air Force Base right out of pilot training. And then shortly after that, he got an assignment to Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan for a combat tour. These are all great credentials for a test pilot, right? Well, here's what you don't know. Cinco had a mid-air collision in his F-15 and lived to tell about it. His story of survival against nearly insurmountable odds really made an impression on me. And we get to learn all about this right now. This is Angel City Flyers at the Long Beach Airport in Southern California. It's a premier flight training facility. I've been flying with these guys for a lot of years, and this is a first-class operation. And I think Cinco is inside. Let's go find out. Cinco, what's up?
Hollywood, how are you?
Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to get to your story, because your story is going to be fantastic. We've got a few things to show you here first, though, just to kind of warm up and look at the different airplanes that are here. This is a Diamond DA-62. This thing actually seats 7 people, but over here, we've got a DA-42. This one was actually made first before the DA-62. And it's technically advanced airplane. I mean, it's got all kinds of neat avionics inside the Garmin G1000.
Yeah.
Center stick, like our fighters. That's another thing that was attractive about this airplane to me. And the one thing that you wouldn't expect, diesel engines running on jet fuel. You know, one of the things that I think about, you know, when I'm asked, when people find out if you're a pilot, they go, how in the world did you come into that profession? I mean, that's complicated. So where were you? What were you doing? How old were you?
Yeah.
You know, when you decided you wanted to be a pilot, how'd that work?
So I grew up in Colorado.
Right.
Grew up in the mountains. Beautiful sky every night. Star Trek Next Generation was popular on TV.
Of course.
And it was the astronaut gig, right?
Yeah.
I love the idea of that. And I remember the night where I'm staring up at the sky and it just hit me that, yeah, that's what I want to pursue and I want to go after. And it turns out that as I went into schooling and started really focusing on STEM and got into University of Colorado and focused on engineering and I kind of tested ROTC program because I knew that was a good way to become an astronaut. Piloting had not really entered my radar screen at the time. So as I'm going through, I find out I'm not qualified to fly, so I'm still not really thinking about it. I'm just focused on trying to be an engineer. I'm going to join the military, serve my country. There was a tech sergeant that came up and he says, I think there's a waiver for your eye condition.
Exactly.
And I was like, no one's ever told me there was a waiver.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just a few months before graduating getting a pilot slot and going to pilot training. And fast forward a few months and I was in love with what I was doing.
You know, that's one of the things that's interesting about that. I was a T-38 instructor at Reese Air Force Base back in the day. So do you know anything about the background of how you got the F-15?
The only jet that no one wanted was the F-15C. I was like, okay, I'll just put that down as my
I'll take that.
one choice
Yeah.
to hope, help the odds out. And I track selected F-15Cs.
So Cinco, you experienced one of the most traumatic things that a fighter pilot can experience, particularly as a flight lead, having a mid-air collision, you know, with your wingman and surviving that situation. So tell us a little bit about the mission and tell us about the accident sequence.
So we were dogfighting that day. We were training for a scenario where you meet another aircraft in some situation, and now you got to get in a position so you can gun that other aircraft. We merge initially, we start turning towards each other, and then We merge a second time, and I'm trying to take the advantage by going vertical. So I go up, my nose comes back down, and right here, right at what we call it the apex, so the furthest apart, we're 5,300 feet from each other.
Okay.
Everything looks somewhat normal, a little different because his lift vector is on me. So lift vector is basically where a vector coming outside the top of your aircraft and where it's pointing. So his lift vector is on me, but that's not too abnormal to see in this situation.
No, of course not.
So we're 5,300 feet, we're 7 seconds from impact. At 3,000 feet, there was nothing either of us could have done. And then the last possible second, I roll up and pull. He actually recognizes a collision too, we believe, at the last second, and he bunts his aircraft, saves my life.
You're pulling Max G and he's pushing.
Yeah. And he starts to push at the very last second, he pushes, and he impacts about 20 feet beyond my cockpit with a 500-mile-an-hour closure. And his nose goes basically through the mid-body of my aircraft.
So close.
And I'm watching it unfold. I brace for the impact. It happens. It's complete chaos, as you can imagine, and I lose my vision. So it's what we call gray out. I don't lose consciousness, which is blacking out, but I lose my vision. A few seconds later, I regain my vision. I don't know what's going on. And then I look up, we have 3 rear view mirrors in the F-15, and the plane's it's completely engulfed in flames. So at that point, I just think to myself, there's no way, there's nothing I can do to get out. So I reach down and I pull the ejection handles. I think we were around 12,000 feet. I was around 12,000 feet when that happened, probably 7 to 10 seconds after the collision happened.
After the impact. So you're checking the canopy, visor up, mask away. So maybe you did all that, maybe you didn't. What happened then?
Yeah, so I eject, and it is an extremely eerie feeling, mass chaos to complete silence. Sitting there, floating through the air, wondering if you're in a dream or not, checking to see if you're alive, and then you start thinking, oh, I got to do this checklist.
I got stuff to do, yeah.
So you just said it, canopy, visor, mask, seat kit, LPU, 4-line, and steer.
So you guys are always flying over the water for this training.
Yeah. So I start saying that checklist, but I start saying it, canopy, visor, mask, seat kit, open, 4-line, steer, canopy, visor, mask, seat kit, open, 4-line, steer, canopy, visor, but I'm not doing anything.
No.
And then I check, the first step is canopy, make sure you have an open parachute canopy. So I check, and then canopy, and then I come back down, I start just saying it out loud again that fast, but I don't do the next step. So then I redo it. Okay, canopy, visor, mask, seat kit, open, 4-line, steer, canopy, visor, mask. And then I finally am getting to the next step. So I get my visor up, canopy, visor, but then I restart, canopy, visor, mask, seat kit, open.
Kind of a time dilation.
Yeah, your mind is just, it is not where you would hope it would be. And I get to the point where I get to seat kit. I'm supposed to check that the seat kit is actually deployed the way that it's automatically supposed to. But when you emergency ground egress on the ground from a fighter, when you have that seat kit as part of the checklist, you actually detach your seat kit to get out of the aircraft. So when I got to seat kit, my mind, my hands just immediately went down and detached. I lost all my survival equipment. Okay. I'm at 8,000 feet. I don't realize it yet. I think, I just did the part of the checklist I'm supposed to. Seat kit, good. Deploy my LPUs. I start trying to steer into the wind as I prepare to land into that water. We're about 70 miles south of Panama City, and the waves were 6-foot waves.
Serious wave height. Okay.
Yeah. So I hit the water, thinking that I have my survival equipment and searching for it, recognizing within a minute or two that I don't have it and starting to shiver. And I see my parachute sitting in the water 20 feet away.
Okay.
So I just think to myself, I don't need my parachute. I was like, well, maybe. So I grabbed it. I grabbed the lanyard, I pull the parachute in, and I hold on to it. And at first I just try to wrap my hands around and try to get them to dry off or, stay warm, but you're just, it's very, very cold right away. And I'm sitting in the ocean, wondering if I'm gonna get picked up.
So in general, when you eject out of a fighter, an emergency beacon goes off. How long did you spend in the water, and why was it so long?
So without my survival equipment, I don't have the radios that you're usually able to tell people what's wrong.
Gone. Okay.
I'm in the water for a few hours. About 45 minutes in, I see planes. Another eagle, flies right over top me, rocks their wings, and turns right over top. And I'm like, I am found, everything is good. I just need to hang out until they tell people where I am.
Sure.
And about an hour later, I see more planes, but they're far away. And then I start realizing, oh, they didn't see me. They never saw me. And I found out no planes ever saw me. You can imagine your little helmet in 6-foot waves from 1,000 feet, impossible to really see.
You probably imagine that he helicopter's wings.
Right. Well, what turns out is they were flying over where from really high up they could see oil slicks in the water.
Got it.
So they recognized that there was probably something there, and they were rocking their wings to try to get some boats to go in that direction. Some military boats were starting to help with the search. At this point, you know, there's a lot of things that go through your mind as I'm recognizing that no one knows really where I am.
A little despair there, maybe.
Yeah. And I take that parachute that I had, and I start filling it up with air. There's a bright orange part of it. I start filling it up with air to try to get some kind of signal. And this 25-foot fishing boat that was out for the day, 70 miles south of Panama City, doing a day fishing trip, just happens upon me in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. I call our squadron. I'm like, hey, I survived. My wingman survived. I saw him under parachute. They're looking for him still.
Was that phone call to them a surprise?
Yeah, oh yeah. When they heard, yeah, because
so they didn't know about
everything's in lockdown.
Yeah, right.
They know that we have crashed, and because we had technology on our aircraft where they're able to play back the mission.
Sure.
So when I call them, they're like, "Wait, what? Who's on the phone?"
Cinco's on the phone?
And then a helicopter comes and picks me up. Okay. And while the helicopter's coming, they mentioned on the radio that they found my wingman. So we landed Eglin. A ton of the squadron is out there waiting for me. My wife is not yet seen me yet, but she knows that I'm alive. They've been able to reach her. They asked me for the whole story. They record it down. It takes about 20 minutes, half hour. And then the squadron commander comes in and breaks the news to me that he passed. So he died on impact. But the way his aircraft hit mine, it opened his cockpit up to the wind, and his parachute caught that wind
and out he goes
and pulled him out.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought he had survived. It's the worst imaginable feeling. You know, as a flight lead, it's ingrained in us that we are responsible for our wingmen. Like,
all the time.
All the time. You know, you have shame, guilt, survivors, you know, guilt. You just have all these feelings of why I couldn't have done something more. Why didn't I say something on the radio? Why didn't I maneuver differently?
And you play it over and over and over.
Nonstop. And it still impacts me to this day. And so it is, it's very tragic to lose someone so close. And you just hope that something good will come from that tragedy.
So do you have a chance to stay in touch with the family, or how does that work?
Yeah, actually, so I met his family because of the funeral.
Right.
And I became friends with them, and specifically his younger brother. And we've stayed in touch ever since. So it's been over 10 years of us seeing each other every once in a while. I visit him with my family. He gets to know my kids. I get to know his kids.
That's great. Something good that came out of that.
Yeah.
So what do we take away? What did you take away? You know, how does that impact the way you fly? How does that impact the way you train?
The first lesson that I try to share when I do share the story is, one, you have to prioritize your life. Because what you don't want is to be sitting in the Gulf of Mexico or whatever situation you may find yourself and looking back on that life, knowing that you may die and having those regrets. Like, why was I doing that, or why wasn't I pursuing this other passion that I had? So there's a blessing in disguise for surviving a close call, whatever it is. And it's still, I still think about it when I'm flying, for sure. I still think about him almost daily. And it's not all sad tears. I mean, you know, life's tough at times and we lose people, but it's trying to honor his memory and trying to make something positive from an experience. And I think that's a lesson for all of us.
That is absolutely an amazing story. Now, a lot of people got to learn from your experience.
Yeah,
that's one of the things we try to do. You know, if something happens, we need to tell people, we need to see if there's lessons learned, we need to pass those on. So Cinco, we've talked about you being operational and your motivation to become a pilot in the very beginning, but I think there was some kind of a secret influence from your grandfather. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I actually didn't hear about this story till after I was a pilot.
What?
I have no idea why my parents didn't make this clearer. But yeah, my great-grandfather on my father's side was one of the first pilots for the Army Air Corps. So he learned to fly in 1917.
Oh my gosh.
And he learned on the Jenny, which is one of the first aircraft after the Wright Flyer.
Right.
And he flew in the military for years, culminating as a B-17 pilot and the base wing commander wing commander equivalent. So he ran a base basically, and it was Hickam Airfield.
Oh, God.
And he was in charge of Hickam until 7 days before Pearl Harbor, and went back to the States, and then Pearl Harbor happened.
Oh, wow. Good
And
timing.
I found out afterwards. And this is his this first pilot logbook, and this is a trophy that he won in 1930s at an air meet.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So you go from operational to flight test. Everybody's got their own separate story. So why that for you?
So through college, I didn't know I wanted to be a pilot. I was down this engineering path, and I loved that aspect of it.
Right.
And then I started flying and absolutely loved basically manipulating this machine and being a part of this really impressive technology that the fighter aircraft is. And then that just sparked in me this desire to combine these two loves that I had and wanting to marry them. And the test pilot route was really the best way to do that.
Outstanding. So you crushed it, you graduated, and then you went to F-15 flight test at Eglin. Any stories from there that are, kind of fun for us to know about?
Yeah, well, if it's okay, the biggest moment, my aha moment, was in test pilot school.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah, so I'm in test pilot school. We've started the curriculum, which is very intense.
Oh, yeah.
A year-long program. A few months in, you get assigned to a project, and then you're supposed to take this project that's a technology that you're going to implement into an airframe.
Sure.
And you're going to take it all the way through from designing the test, executing the test, reporting on the test. And when they put the projects out to the students to select, there was one that caught my eye, and it was what we call an automatic air collision avoidance system. So the aircraft know they're going to hit each other where the pilots may not recognize it.
And this is, of course, after your midair.
Yeah, so this is 4 years after my midair. I'm sitting in test pilot school with this program, and I immediately go to the staff and I beg to be put on this program because of my history. They immediately, agree and think I'm a good fit for that. And we started testing with F-16s, but they advanced it and added it to the automatic ground collision avoidance system to protect pilots basically from the two biggest things that kill pilots. One is hitting the ground, and one is hitting another aircraft.
Yep, that's fantastic. Can't wait to see that. That's going to save a lot of lives and a lot of money, for sure.
Looking back on my accident, that's why it was an aha moment. I felt like there was a purpose to this tragedy. There was a reason why I had survived through this, to be an advocate for this technology, to allow future pilots to have this protection.
So what's next for Cinco? I mean, you've been a squadron commander. I mean, you're current squadron commander right now, directing the integrated test force with 1,000 people in all the different airplanes there at Edwards. So do you have an idea what's next? You're just about halfway through your squadron commander tour.
Throughout my entire life, I think it's good to be tactically content, but strategically restless. So I am very tactically content. That means like where I'm at right now, I try to live in the moment. I try to be there for people, but strategically, always wondering and maybe thinking about where I want to go to.
Planning for it.
Yeah, and so my desires are to go to the next level of school for the military, and I should be probably going there next summer. And then beyond that, I'd like to command at even higher levels and get more involved with some of the programmatics and the acquisitions, because as a test pilot, it's exciting and I love flying. But some of the really important decisions are actually made in the meetings years before those flights happen. So I want to make sure that I'm able to be a positive influence in that entire process and see where the Lord leads me. Yeah,
I think that's an excellent viewpoint, because if you're happy where you are and you're where you're placed for a reason, then you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you so much for showing up here today.
Absolutely.
What a story. We'll never all be asked to serve in ways that Cinco has served. But I tell you what, in your own corner of the world, you can make a huge difference. I would encourage you every day, take one more step towards your goal. Every day, do an unexpected act of kindness for someone with zero expectation of anything in return. Stay tuned again for our next episode, when we bring you another great story of pilots and the planes they fly. I'm your host, Brett Vance, and this is Jet Jockeys. So Cinco, I know what my logbook says. I know how to write in it. I know the things that I'm supposed to write in there. This one looks way different. So what's in here?
Yeah, I actually haven't looked at too many details other than I've tried to see what type of plane he was flying, which was the Jenny. Let's see, Joyride, figure eights, airworks, a lot of landing stuff, a lot of solo information.
Solo stuff, yeah.
Here's one. Oh, you gotta be kidding. So this is on the 26th of January 1918. It says solo collision, lost rudder and part of elevator. Cadet someone above and behind dived on me. Solo collision. Yeah. Take a look at that.
Probably not part of the syllabus, I would say.
Lost rudder.
Lost rudder, part of the elevator. Okay.
Mid-air collision, huh?
All right. Who knew?
That's amazing. I had no idea he was in a collision. I just knew that he had an accident.
You've had these books how long? And you're just now seeing this?
Well, I've had them for, cumulative like 4 years. I lost them for 10 years. That's a different story.
Yeah.
I didn't know, I thought they were gone forever, and then I got them back just 3 years ago.
Now here we are talking about your thing, and here we find your grandfather.
I have never seen this before. That is so remarkable. How cool is that? He survived clearly. He was a young cadet when that happened.
And that's the first logbook, and the rest of them you have for subsequent.
Wow.
Outstanding.
It's awesome.
Is there a special story you want to hear, or a pilot that you want to meet? Go to our website at jetjockeys.tv to leave your idea and learn more about aviation.